Hi everyone, and welcome to lesson 2 of databases. In this lesson what we're going to look at is the structure of a database. So we've already learned about what a database is, looking at what kind of information it stores. Now what we're going to do is have a look at how it's set up from scratch. So hopefully by the end of this lesson you'll be able to explain how a database consists of a table of data. You'll also be able to identify what a field and a record are in a database. You'll be able to state different data types or types of data that can be stored within a database. And finally, you'll be able to match certain data types to fields within a database. So if you open up your task sheet 2, and you'll notice at the top of it there's a starter question that asks you to list 3 different pieces of information that the contacts database in your phone can store about each friend. So what I'm looking for here is for you to think of, if you were adding a new contact into your mobile phone, give me 3 pieces of information you would add about that contact into your phone. So you can pause this video, write down your 3 and then press play again. So now that you've completed the starter question, you should have 3 pieces of information added in your space on the task sheet. So just leave that there and I'll see it when you submit it. Now what we're going to have a look at is an example of a database table. So when I'm talking about the structure of our database and how the database consists of a table, this is an example of what it looks like. So this database table is an example of a table to do with cars. So if you look on the left hand side, you can see the make and model of a variety of cars. This is one table within a database that stores all of the information about all of these cars. Now, it's important that when we're talking about database tables that we have a look horizontally. Okay, so the thing that's highlighted here in purple is what is known as a record, and there's loads of records that make up a table in a database. So there's also one record for each object in the database. As I've said here, an object can be a person, animal, or a thing. So in this case, it's a thing and it's a car. So it's a BMW model 730i. And if you look horizontally in this record, you can see all of the information relating to that one specific object. If we have a look vertically, okay, so the things that are highlighted in green here, that is what is known as a database field, okay? And the field is used to store an individual piece of data in a record. Fields can also store different data types or different types of data. For example, text, number, date, time, and boolean. So again, if you want to pause this video, the answers to task 5 are on this slide just now. So moving on, task 6 on your task sheet requires you to visit the Lego website. So if you just type in the URL that's on screen into your browser, www.lego.co.uk, and I want you to have a look at certain products that are available on the Lego website. Okay, have a look at their database tables for all of the available products, and I want you to pick out a couple of records. Okay, so the records are going to be the products because they hold all of the information about one specific object. Have a look then for the example fields within those records. Okay, and there's obviously going to be a lot of information about one record. I want you to just pick out one field. So as you can see here, I've done one example for you. I found the James Bond Aston Martin DB5 available on the Lego website, and one example of a field or one type of information that they would store about that certain object is the price. Okay, you can also have product description or availability, for example. So have a look at the website and try and complete the table. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go. Okay, try and mix it up as well with the fields that you're choosing. Don't just do price for all of them. Have a look at different types of information that could be stored within that. That task may take you 10 or 15 minutes, so if you would like to pause this video and then resume once you've finished. So in database, the basics, what we need to do is know that there are 5 types of data available to use within our databases. Okay, so I'll go through them quickly for you, and this will help you also answer task 7. So the first one that we need to know is text. It should be quite straightforward. It's just if you were storing things like your address or your first name or your surname. So that's the first data type that we need to know about. Second is number. Okay, so if you were wanting to store maybe age or number of siblings or the number of the house on a street, something like that. Okay. The third data type is date, and this data type would be used if you wanted to record in your database maybe someone's birthday or the date that the next movie release is, something like that. Okay, anything that looks like it should be a date, today's date for example, or anything with the value of a date. Number 4 then is time. Okay, so if you wanted to store maybe in your database the time it takes to cook a recipe, for example, or the time taken to run 100-meter sprint, for example, anything that would have to be stored in time format uses the time data type in our databases. And the final data type that you need to know is Boolean. Okay, so it's Boolean on the bottom right here, and this data type is used when there's only a true or false option for that specific piece of data. So for example, if I wanted to store whether or not someone attended school today, it would only be yes or no, so therefore I would apply the Boolean data type to that field. Okay, so Boolean data type is used when there's only 2 possible values, yes or no, or true or false. That is also going to help you answer task 8 on your sheet. So if you want to replay that last 30 seconds of the video, that will help you task 8 as well. So moving on, what I want you to do for task 9 is to try and identify what data type we would use for each of these pieces of information. Okay, so you can also flip back to the last slide and have a look just to remind yourself of the 5 data types that we use. So have a look at the first one. There's £3.99, and I want you to go through the 5 data types and see which one you think matches. You'll then just write that in the box provided to the right hand side, and you've got that to do 10 times for task 9. Okay, some are a little bit more complex than others, but do your best for that. Again, pause this video until you finish task 9 and then we can move on. So task 10 requires you to choose a database from the following. So you can choose a doctor's surgery, you could also choose a library, or you could choose Tesco online. And what I want you to do for task 10 is to fill in the line at the top where it says I have chosen the blank database. I want you to fill in either doctor surgery, library, or Tesco online, just so I know which one you're referring to in your answers. What I want you to do is have a look at the data types available here on the left hand side. So I've chosen, for example, if I was to choose the doctor surgery database, I would write I have chosen the doctor surgery database up here. I would then think of a piece of text that would be stored in that table. Okay, so because it's a doctor surgery, I'm going to assume that the doctor surgery database would hold the name of the patient. So that's what I would write in here in this box. Beside text, I would say patient's name. What I want you to do is apply that thinking just for the last few data types as well. Okay, so I want an example of all 5 data types that you would find inside your chosen database table. And again, you can pause this video until you have finished and then we'll move on. So now that you're at the end of this lesson, what I want you to do for the plenary is to count the number of records and fields in table 1 and table 2. So if you're still unsure about records and fields, you can go back to the start of this video, but just to recap, records go horizontally, okay, so everything horizontally is a record, and the fields are the vertical pieces of data that store different data types in our databases. So I want you to count the number of records and fields in both Table 1 and Table 2, pop those in the boxes provided on your task sheet, and that is you done for this lesson. So you can pause this whilst you complete that, and then we'll finish up by seeing how we think we've done in this lesson. Okay, so how successful have you been in this lesson? I want you just to either leave me a comment or write it on your task sheet provided. Do you think that you can explain that a database consists of a table of data? Can you identify what a field and a record are in a database? Can you state different types of data that can be stored in a database? So could you tell me the 5 types of data that we use in our databases? And finally, can you match data types to fields in a database? Okay, so give yourself a rating from 1 to 5, just so I know how you've got on with this lesson. And if you've completed that, then just submit the completed task sheet to Satchel 1. Okay, thanks very much, guys. Enjoy.